Hello, everyone. Welcome to the EUG podcast. I'm here with a special guest, Bellator, Jeremy Kennedy. Jeremy,
Thank you very much, man.
nice for joining me today, brother.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Man, awesome. You look like you're getting ready for a war,
Looking
right?
skinny a
You're
little
looking
bit,
skinny,
right?
brother.
Yeah, it's about that time.
Nice. You have a bout coming up
Yeah, next Saturday.
next Saturday.
Yes, sir. So
How was your
6
training
days.
camp?
Bro, it's the best camp I've ever had. You know, as I got injured the last fight. It
Right.
was right at the last minute, and then so this camp I kind of just picked up. It was the same matchup that got rebooked, so I just picked up where I left off, and I've had 12 weeks notice of a camp I already did. You know, so
Right.
I just dialed in what I didn't like last time and built the game plan with my coaches the same as before. We didn't have to like start from scratch. And I've just been in shape all summer since that last one fell through. I kind of felt robbed because I didn't get to fight.
Right.
So my diet's been on. I feel like a bodybuilder, man. This 12-week meal prep program, everything, including with my training and strength and conditioning, and I'm just a whole new me. I'm excited to test it out.
Man, I'm excited to watch you.
Yeah.
You're training at Extreme Couture.
Yeah.
You made the move. You're originally from Canada.
Yes, sir.
Right. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Before all this amazing journey you've had.
Yeah, so grew up in Fleetwood, Surrey, and Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, for everyone. And I played a lot of sports, but never really anything contact. Like I was soccer, baseball, that kind of stuff, but always in athletics. But then I grew up in a household. Brother was 200 pounds, 4 years older than me, a lot bigger than me, and he'd always beat up on me. Him and his friends too, actually. Like it got to a thing that like I liked it, in a sense of like I was always like antagonizing them and messing with them, and then it got into like a joking thing where him and his friends would almost come over after school and like let's beat up on Jeremy.
It was a tradition.
Yeah, it's a tradition thing. So like I was like right out of the gate, like I didn't know how to fight, but I knew how to take a beating, and
Right.
and that's what actually transitioned me into jiu-jitsu, is because I was into WWE and all that kind of stuff, and I saw Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz 3 on TV just after The Ultimate Fighter. I was like, well, that's cool. What is this kind of thing? And started doing the deep dive on YouTube. And
How old were you?
I was 12.
Okay.
So I was right into WWE. I thought Ken Shamrock was going to be the man. Then he got smashed by Tito.
Right.
And I started looking up gyms in my area.
Right.
And I actually wanted to compete before I even started training. I just saw a jiu-jitsu tournament. It was submission grappling only. And I was like, I'm going to try. I wrestle with my brother all the time. I want to do it.
No problem.
Yeah, no issue. And I had my dad call the instructor. And it was kind of like Don Whitefield, who I started from under. It would be like you with your grappling tournament and somebody calling you saying they wanted to sign up, but they've never trained before. And so...
Right.
You're like, all right, come on in, So he invited me in to come train. He's like, man, he's got to train before he does it. And so I went in and I started training, competing. And I started training 2 months later. It was the tournament that I was dying to do. And it was an adult tournament. And I went in, I came third. I was trying submissions I'd never done before, nothing. And it was a round robin. So I got submitted a couple times, but I got a few submissions and just fell in love.
Right.
And that was before the big hurdle, like 2009. So this is before everyone started doing it in gym on every block,
Right.
So I was driving like probably 45 minutes out of the city to go to this one jiu-jitsu gym, and it was the only one around in my whole area. And that's where I kind of got the gap, because before it got popular, before it was really big, I was into jiu-jitsu. I was this little jiu-jitsu nerd, this little kid in high school, or not even in high school yet. And so, that's kind of where it all started from. And I loved competing. So I was doing jiu-jitsu and pancreation. I hadn't touched any kind of striking. It was just all grappling.
So you did pancreation without even
No.
any experience?
Diving at legs, and without punches, I learned on the spot, like learned on the job.
Right.
Even my first amateur fight I was 16 years old. I thought I was doing like more of a pancreation, but just like within a venue, like rather than at a tournament,
Right.
like an open mat area. And I show up, I'm facing this dude that, first of all, missed weight. He said it was at 140. He thought it was 140. I was 135.
Right.
Grenade tattoos everywhere. And he's 24, 25 at the time. I'm 16.
Right.
And no headgear, no nothing.
Nothing.
And it was like unregulated in BC. It was amateur, but you could do anything you wanted, like full rules, full MMA rules,
Wow.
except for 3-minute rounds. And I had to have my like parents sign the waiver.
You
Kind of like Raul.
Raul, right?
Yeah.
Starting to sound like Raul now,
He was
right?
on the Contender Series. I was just doing an amateur fight way back when, but yeah, it's very similar. But
Interesting.
I showed up to the venue thinking I was going to be wearing headgear.
Mm-hmm.
My mom thought I was going to be. It was all good, but we showed up and it was just like any other MMA show you would see now. And then I won, and I got hurt, I got hit, up, down, everything. It was a full MMA fight, and I fell in love right after that. Started doing kickboxing right after that too. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah,
That's awesome, man.
started
And so you turned pro at 18?
18, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
And how was that? Like how did it feel to like say, okay, now it just got real?
Yeah, like I guess when I was my amateur career, I was growing up, so I was still like partying on the weekends and missing training a few times a week, not every single day. And I graduated high school, and that's when I turned pro. And it was weird, like a switch just hit me as soon as I turned pro, and I had my first fight booked. That it was a professional fight. And I had never really had a real job because I was in high school the whole time, fighting in the summers. And so right when I graduated, I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
So you've never had
I've worked like weekends, and
right,
summers and
but not
stuff,
like a full time.
Never.
This
Just
is all you've
right out
done.
of high school fighting, you know.
my God.
And so like that, but in order to do that, you have to sacrifice, right? And like, so I'm used to living on a tight budget and training every single day. Like people think you're a fighter, like, oh, you don't work, you get to relax.
Did you live at your parents' house during this time?
Yeah, it's the only way I could, you know, like,
and that's what people don't realize. They see you guys out here in the bright lights. Oh man, look at him, he's living. Yeah, but the struggle,
you
know,
is crazy.
It's not for everybody, and I think there's a perception of like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
No. There's a lot of sacrifices that go into what you guys do, and I think that's why I like to touch on those stories.
Yeah,
because there is a struggle through this path, you know, and this journey.
All the way through up until even when you turn pro, like I wasn't making no money until I made it to the UFC. Right. You know? And so that's finally when I was actually I didn't have to work side jobs or work weekends or work, you know, summers or whatever. And so like it's a struggle all the way through from the beginning. And a lot of guys think that it's a glamorous life because they're training and they happen to train, but they're recreational training. And it's like, if you were to turn this into a job, you're not going to love it as much as you think you do, you know?
And how many hours do you train a day?
It depends what you consider training as well, like recovery-wise.
Recovery is also
all
important.
Of it. You know, I'm probably spending at least 6-7 hours a day.
Wow.
You know, all day, like my work day.
Every day?
Every single day.
Except for Sunday, maybe? One day?
Sunday, I'm still, like,
you're still
relaxing.
doing some kind of
cardio
movement, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, I try to give myself a Sunday. But other than that, it's 6 days a week, and nobody's keeping me accountable. Like I'm not like I'm punching in and punching out in a paycheck. It's like I could wake up and just decide I'm not doing anything and sleep all day. Right. But it's gonna show in front of a million people and cameras are on and somebody's trying to take your head off. Like that's when it's gonna show. So I gotta do it. You know, I have to wake up every single day, even if I don't want to, and spend the whole day training or recovering. And like there's a lot of things that go into. Like I started hyperbaric this camp, like rigid, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's an hour in that tank with nothing on you. It's just in there, you know. And
how do you feel doing that?
I liked it. Yeah, like I've added a lot of new things into my camp, so it's really hard to see what's working and what's not. But that hyperbaric, man, I just feel like I get out of there and I'm recovering quicker. I do the whoop, right, and so my readings are all like through the roof. Like I've been really high recovery. My resting heart rate's at like 33. It's just nuts. But it's consistency. You can't just jump in a hyperbaric once and think you're good.
Right.
You know, so.
Do you find that there's so many athletic kids, like you're like, man, they're in the gym, this guy's going to be something, but they don't put in the work the way it should be? Because I find myself seeing a lot of athletes, they're so talented in the gym.
Oh, yeah.
But they're just lazy. They don't put in the work, and they say, "Oh well, they'll train one day, and then I'm sore the next 2-3 days, and I don't want to train." Like,
That's it.
That doesn't work.
Yeah, that's
like
what I was
I
talking
get it,
about
and
with-
it's amazing. Like you see him in the gym, like dude, it's a lot of wasted talent.
Yeah.
Can
I mean, you probably see
sit
it a
in-
lot more than me with, being a head instructor and seeing it, all these guys come in the door. I mean, I can just speak on myself, and I felt like I was talented right out of the gate.
Right.
But that's not going to take, like, conditioning has got to be one of the most important things
Yeah.
in the fighting aspect, and especially at the highest level when everyone's pretty competitive and
Right.
even. That's the one thing you can control is coming in shape and coming in on weight. So if you're slipping up on that kind of stuff early on, and you're resting and you're just relaxing when you think because you need it because you're sore or whatever, like nobody cares. You
Yeah.
gotta. And wasted talent is a big thing I see a lot throughout my career too. Is like but I've been all over the place training.
Right.
Lived in Thailand and
Right.
moved out here to Las Vegas, and so
Right.
I've been to a lot of different gyms and seen a lot of guys and trained with some guys, and then thought that they're going to be world beaters, and then I check back in on them, and you don't hear from them, right? So
Yeah.
that's another part of the struggle I think with any athletics is like
Right.
talent will get you there, but you got to be able to push and work hard and outworking a talented guy is not very hard if they're not working hard.
I think that saying of hard work beats talent when talent doesn't
100%.
work hard.
Yeah.
It's fits MMA perfectly
Yeah.
because again, you see a lot of these UFC guys. You're like, man, he's gonna be so good, but then they get complacent.
Yeah.
They've made it. And they're like, I made it. No, you haven't made it. Perfect example. Look at Brandon Moreno. Like he came in, Ultimate Fighter, didn't do well, but came back.
He
got cut, came back.
Yeah.
Hard work.
Yeah.
And I've seen it, and I learned now that I see that been around it, and around you guys at Extreme, which you see a lot of up and coming and veterans in there, but you see the guys that are in there every single day. Consistency. So you got your first MMA fight. You fought in Canada during this time. And then you make the transition you get the call. Tell us, getting into the UFC.
Yeah, so just a quick little fast forward.
Right.
I had my whole amateur career in BC and Vancouver, Canada. And then I turned pro, had a few fights, and actually got sponsored to go live out in Thailand for a year. And so that kind of allowed me to bang out a bunch of fights because all I did right out of high school, turned pro, had a fight, flew out there, and lived and trained like I'm living now, right? Because it's pretty cheap to live there.
Right.
So I was no work, training twice a day, 2-3 times a day, whatever it is, dieting Monday to Saturday, Sundays off, like a professional lives, right? So I was able to get 4 MMA fights and 1 Muay Thai fight in 1 year in 2014. So then I flew back home and I was 6-0 or whatever at the time. And that's when I had a few more fights in BC, got a local title, my first pro title, and then the UFC came to Vancouver. And I knew that I was like, you know what, I'm headlining the shows out here. This young kid, I was 22, I think, 23, 8-0. So they signed me, I got the call, but it was up a weight class, and it was like 4 or 5 weeks notice. They're like, hey, we have this fight, this slot, this is the only one.
What were your thoughts when you were like,
man,
putting me in a category that's not me, but you got to take it.
No.
You can't say no. You
say
say no, you're out.
On
Like
the
you
back
can
of the
forget about it.
list,
Yeah, for sure.
So I was like, you know what? Like this is what it is. Like especially not even a full camp, right? And I'm a small guy, especially then. I've gotten a lot bigger now. I've grown into my body, but I've always fought at 145. So making weight was a breeze back then, and they come to me with a 155 at the biggest organization, So I know these guys are gonna be big and strong, but you don't say no. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then I was supposed to fight Josh Emmett at 155. A week out, he got hurt. I got a replacement, Alex Ricci, debut guy from Canada on the East Coast, so different side. I've never trained with him, never heard of him, nothing. Was able to get the win. Nice. Then I had to sit 6 months to be able to get back into my weight class, featherweight. I was like, I don't want another fight until you can get me at featherweight, And so I went 3-1 in the UFC.
Nice.
Successful. I had my one loss, Alex Volkanovski. Flew all the way to. I was a yes man, I fought all these guys in their local hometowns. I went to
Right.
Brazil, fought Honey Jason
Yeah.
in Fortaleza.
Right.
Fought Kyle Bochniak in New York, and he's a Boston guy. And then I flew to Perth, Australia, and fought Volkanovski. You know,
Right.
so I was just, I didn't care. I wanted the experience. I was
Right.
having fun. I was young, and I think I got to the UFC a little early, to be honest.
Right.
You know, I hadn't developed, because once I left the UFC, I was 11-1, 3-1 in the UFC. I had a lot of different offers,
Right.
and that was when I actually just moved out
And
here.
you had different management at the time.
No,
when-
yeah,
So
bad management. I didn't want to touch too much on them.
Right,
but
right.
I'm not going to name them, but they were horrible. They
Right.
lied to me. They were saying different. They were giving me full conversations that weren't even happening.
Right,
you know?
right,
It's
right.
like it's a side of the business.
if
I
not,
didn't
you
know.
would have still been. I mean, 3-1.
Who knows what would have happened?
Right.
Yeah.
You still had the opportunity to be
Yeah.
in there, but luckily, you know what I mean. Your career's been amazing.
Yeah.
You jumped to Bellator.
Yeah.
You've been, a great organization by Croker. He's done an amazing job.
Yeah.
How do you like it there, and how's it been the experience?
Yeah, like I've been everywhere with the PFL and the UFC and Bellator, and I love Bellator the most, man. I don't know if it's because of where I'm at in my career and where I'm
Right.
in my life. Like if I was in the UFC now, it's just kind of funny. I wonder what would have happened,
Right.
you know? But I did a lot of learning and growing, fighting all through these years after the UFC.
Right.
And that's where I got good. And that's when I started living here and training full-time in Vegas.
Right.
It's been 4 or 5 years now. Manager with Ali Abdelaziz. I
One
think
of-
you got me
one
actually
of-
in contact with
Yeah.
him, you know? So
One of the best out there.
Best
I
out
tell
there.
people
Yeah, he's
all the
taking
time,
care
this
of
guy
me.
takes care of his guys. He goes above. I feel like he goes above and beyond, and he's a very genuine guy. People say whatever they want to say.
Yeah.
I'm always forever grateful because he gave me opportunities to be in rooms that a lot of people couldn't be in.
Yeah.
So again, I feel like you made the right decision, and man, I mean, it's been worked out
It's
for you.
been the best part of my
And I
career.
feel like a lot of fighters don't understand that the UFC is not the only place to go.
Yeah.
And they get caught up in that emblem, that logo. You can't take that logo to the bank,
Yeah. No, it's
right?
a status thing. That's it. Yeah,
That's
you
it.
can't-
Like, I found the UFC, great, but my paycheck might not reflect what that logo says,
100%,
right?
yeah.
And I feel like Bellator has done a great job of taking care of their athletes as well. I mean, UFC takes care of the athletes, but the up and comers need to understand like that logo does not pay the bills. You can't take it to the bank.
Yeah, you got to decide what you're in this for.
Exactly.
You know?
And at the end of the day, you're a prize fighter.
Yeah.
So if it's not reflecting in the
Yeah.
bank, then there's a problem.
Yes,
You know what
sir.
I mean? So again, you made the right decision. You got, like you said, you got older, you got wiser. Okay, this is the right decision for me and my family.
Yeah.
You know?
And like Ali has took care of me, since I signed with him. He's looked at me and, any problems that we had, no issues. He's like, brother, don't worry. We'll take care of it. I'll take care of you. And I've just never really had any doubts on him, So I just left it. He kind of managed my career, told me where I'm fighting, where I'm going, who I'm fighting, when I'm doing
Makes
it.
life easier for you to
Easy.
just focus on
Yeah.
training.
Yeah, so
Yes.
and Bellator's been the best thing that could have happened to me,
Right.
So I love the division. I'm in a real stacked division, featherweight.
stacked.
They have one of the best divisions in
yeah.
all of MMA, and it's limitless. I got lots of matchups to look forward to in the future too. And I just signed my new 4-fight contract. This is the first fight of my next 4, so I'm
Nice.
here to stay.
There you
I'm
go.
here to stay,
And
bro.
again,
I'm excited.
it's great to see that because I've known you for a long time. You were Jason Gagnon's student, right?
Yeah.
He's a black belt under Cobrinha. So I've been seeing your career develop, and you're moving here, going there. Also trained with me here, lived in my house, right, for a little bit.
Yeah, that's how I got my foothold.
That was your transition to Vegas.
Yeah. You're the first person I knew. So Hector, I need a room. He's like, okay, bro, we got
Come
you.
on, man. And a lot of people don't know that. Like
Yeah.
a lot of MMA fighters have came either to stayed at my house or this studio that we're sitting in used to be the place where they used to sleep.
Do you remember the car I was driving around?
Bro, remember that?
But
it's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
I had
matter.
to,
It
yeah.
was
As long as
getting
I
you
got
from
the
A to
gym.
B.
Yeah.
That's all you needed.
Yeah, yeah.
But look at you now. And I'm so happy for you.
I appreciate
And you got married, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? An
yeah.
amazing wife that you have. You moved her out here.
My
made her
home,
drop
my life.
everything. How's that been for her as well?
She actually loves it more now. It
Really?
was the pandemic that it was hard. We had to struggle. Like I was spending. Well, I started off in your room and then your spare room. Then I was able to get my own spot, but it was like a half and half. I would spend in camps out here. Then I'd have to go back to BC. I was rooted there. I had the fiance at the time, and she had a good job. And then when COVID hit, Canada got smacked,
yeah.
just bad. So her studios got shut down, and I was trying to still do the coming back and forth, but Canada's making you do 2-week quarantining, and I did that like 3 times, and I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not coming back here. So we got married actually during COVID, and I think it was more of a switch for her. She was like, you know what, I got to support him. He's the one that, he's dedicated his whole life to this, and I was the one making all the sacrifices. Living in bedroom, like spare rooms to spare rooms out here, making ends meet and then to fly back just to see her and then come back out here. So she kind of made the decision for herself too, like, hey, we're gonna go all in with you in Vegas. And so I packed up my whole house, got my dogs in the back of the car, and drove 24 hours all the way through the Pacific Northwest out here. And and she loves it out here now. Honestly, we're gonna have a hard time going back if we ever do. The way of life out here is a lot better, and we're just establishing a whole life out here.
And you just saw, like you said, you just re-signed your 4-fight contract.
Yeah.
If you had something to pass on to the next generation, some kind of advice, what would it be, Jeremy? Because you started at a young age. What would you tell the next generation to really focus on? Because again, after you're fighting after 35 years old, you have to have something to show for yourself.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that.
So I think the biggest thing is, if you're looking like you want to make this a career, it has to be decided early and committed. You can't be like, oh, well, I'm going to see how it goes and be half in, half out. You got to train every single day, like we were talking about, and compete as much as possible, and then get all the experience you can and really make it go for it, and then not worry about the status thing like we were talking about. And know your value, and get paid.
I like that.
Know your value. And if it means saying no to some things just because the money's not right or doesn't look right, then that's fine. Like, you'll live to another day. You keep training, you keep getting better. And having a backup plan, like you're making good. Once you do make good money, you're only making it, there's a small window, so your investments is important, and my big thing right now is property. I'm trying so hard to, like, after each fight, let's put this money away that it's going to make me money for when I'm done fighting.
Passive income.
Exactly. And I actually look to you as a lot for motivation, and like I see how well you've done and what you've done and your investments, and you're always going, mine's going, like
too much sometimes.
We got the podcast, you got a whole gym that you're running, and so it's never enough, you don't just stop when you're done fighting. It's like I got a second life coming up after my fighting, and the better I do now, the harder I work now, the better resume I have, the better brand I have. I'm a brand.
Right.
So the better I do, the harder work I do, the more I train, the better I'm going to do in my fights, is going to in turn make after fighting that much easier, and then so it's a lifelong investment that I've decided since I was 13 that I've committed to.
Crazy. Man, that's been so, great information. Congratulations on your career, man. I'm very happy for you. And hey, let's bring that belt home. You know what I mean? Bring it back to Vegas. Thank you guys for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Keep evolving in everything that you guys do.